Yeah, thank you so much, Theo, for the music you're providing this morning. Oh my gosh, well, welcome. Welcome. I'm feeling a little live. Is that, do you mind? Welcome, and welcome to First Universalist Church, where we are called to nurture the spirit and to serve the community. I feel so far away from you all this morning. I think I'm actually gonna make my way down. I'm gonna be down here as much as I can be today. Because I feel like the distance of these 4 feet just feels so far when there's only a few of us here this morning. Oh, thanks, Tip. Yeah, would folks like to move in a little bit? I mean, I understand we want to physically distance, but if folks want to move in and get close with each other, it's only just a few of us today, you know? Let's be together. Let's spend some time together. For folks joining us online, just so you know, our choir is singing over at First Unitarian this morning, which is part of this fantastic collaboration that we've got going on. But there's only just a few of us here this morning, and it's so good to be together. Oh, I'm so glad y'all are here. I understand if folks want to stay physically distant, that is fine. We welcome all of you here. Well, hello. I'm Reverend Lane-Mairead Campbell. I'm grateful here to be your settled minister for the last 6 years. Yay! And I use they, them pronouns. Joining me in leading worship today, we actually have our online worship associate, Ezekiel McGee, also using they, them pronouns, who will be joining us from this tropical island background. I can't wait for you all to see it. We have Oliver Annan, I have to say that right, Oliver Annan joining us on the tech deck using he, him pronouns. We've got Karen Labraco, I believe, for our online ministry team this morning. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for holding down our online community. This might be a day when our online community and our in-person community are at equal numbers today. We've been having about 20 or 30 people joining us online every Sunday. It's pretty amazing. So if you're here for the first, second, or third time, welcome. This is not usually the numbers that we have. We usually have many more folks here, but we're really glad that you're here with us this morning and grateful to be in community with y'all. We have a visitors form that can be found on the back of your order of service if you'd like to fill that out. If you're joining us online for this first, second, or third time, we have a link in the chat if you'd like to also fill out a visitors form so we could just offer you a better welcome than just what we can offer you here on Sunday morning. But we're really glad you're here. As we prepare our minds and hearts to greet one another, both online and in person, let us connect our two communities for a moment. So if you would turn towards Hope and offer a wave to our online worshiping community, we are so grateful that you are with us this morning, so happy that you have joined us. Thanks for clicking the link in the to get online this morning. If you're joining us online, please pop into the chat to offer a greeting. Let us know where you're zooming in from. And if you're here in person, please rise in body or in spirit and greet your neighbor. Well, dear ones, let's sing together, huh? So if you would like to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 29, Joyful, Joyful We Adore Thee. The words are in your gray hymnals if you like, and also here on the screen. We're going to be celebrating joy this morning, so let's get into it. Beautiful. Please be seated.
He who binds to himself a joy does the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. William Blake's poem Eternity reminds us that joy is something we cannot mandate or control. Joy is ephemeral, and if we learn to appreciate the fleeting moments we experience this sensation, we might find wisdom that lasts a lifetime. Come, let us worship together. As the chalice is lit at First Universalist Church and you light a chalice in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our sung offering. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
What we need is here. What we need is here. What we need is here. What we need is here.
Our May Social Justice Plate offering is designated for the Black Community Focus Fund. The fund was created by members of Spiritus Christi Church, with the Reverend Myra Brown as its executive director. Its mission is to provide direct support in housing, education, and economic opportunity to Black families in the Rochester community impacted by racism's history and current manifestations. Please contribute as generously as you can to support this important work. You who are here in person are invited to drop an offering in the offering basket, and if you are a visitor, please feel free to let the basket pass. You are invited to give online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity.
Beautiful. Thank you, Theo. So, I was reading a piece from Cole Arthur Riley this past week, who is an incredible author. She does this Black Liturgies project and recently released a second book. And she was writing in this book, speaking of movements for Black liberations in the 1910s in this country. And she wrote of a march where the youth were out front, all dressed in white. She wrote of the adults in this movement, recognizing that the children need to lead. Just as scripture, Christian scripture had taught these folks over many, many generations, that we should all let the children lead. And so this morning's story is certainly for children. It's a poem, but it gets to things that are sometimes hard to describe about joy for the adult heart. And so let us just allow the children to lead us this morning in this story. This Joy by Shelley Johannes. My arms aren't big enough to hold the whole world with all its green and all its blue, but when I feel this happy, it is all I want to do. My tiptoes aren't tall enough to touch the treetops or reach the clouds. My legs aren't long enough to cover all of the ground. My feet cannot feel every grain of sand or wade into every inch of wild. I don't have enough fingers to count all the people, but I wish I could share 1 billion smiles. My voice isn't loud enough to express this joy, even with a microphone or a megaphone, and my friends on backup xylophones. Even when I try and try and try, why isn't there a word for feeling this alive? Maybe it's an exclamation mark. Maybe it's a song, a quiet one, a noisy one, or the kind where everyone sings along. Is it birds in flight? Squirrels at play, the squint of my eyes in the symphony of light? Maybe it's a pirouette. I wouldn't know how to make one, but. Or a hill where I can roll. A wish I cannot catch. Laughter I can't control. Today is a gift that my arms can't quite hold. Although I'm small, my heart is tall and my arms are exactly the right size for holding you. A reminder of the joy that can be found in the natural world, in relationship, in the indescribable. So let us prepare our hearts for our ritual of joys and sorrows as we sing our doxology together. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung. Every time. Please be seated. And I'm just going to invite you into this sacred and reverent time of sharing the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen and hold space for one another from this heart-centered place, a connection that we can make whether you are here in this sanctuary or joining us online from somewhere, a way we can all connect into this heart-centered space. As Steve places stones into a bowl here on our altar, I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community, and if you're joining us online, please feel free to share joys and sorrows in the chat, and I will read them aloud. This morning, we hear a joy from Elizabeth Osta. So glad to be here with people who are like-minded in spirit. We have a joy this morning from Joyce and Dick Gilbert that their son Douglas successfully donated a kidney this past week in his home and is doing well. 2 beneficiaries of said kidney, a friend who moved to the top of the beneficiary list and was able to qualify for a kidney, and then Douglas's kidney was also flown into Utah. Glad he's home and doing well. We have a joy this morning from Marty Eggers, a joy to see our beautiful garden in spring bloom. If you have not been out front to see it, I deeply encourage you to do so after our service. The flowers are absolutely gorgeous. We share a joy from our online community that one of our dear beloveds is mostly recovered after a week of their first bout with COVID. Holding you in healing, love, and grateful that you are recovering. Would you mind scrolling up, Oliver, so we can see that one right up there? A sorrow from Cara. Cara Gagliano. Close family friends were involved in the train accident near Buffalo on Friday. Please keep their loved ones in your thoughts during this tragedy. Oh, Cara, we are holding all those who were involved in that train accident and holding you in love. Johanna also shares a sorrow, a hard day for me. My husband, Mike, died today in 2019, and my beloved son, Brian, just 2 days and 2 years later. Johanna, we are holding you on these important milestones of grief, and we are with you in this time period. Erica shares a joy that she has her wife's never-ending support and love for Parker, and the joy that she has a roof over her head and food to eat. So the joy for her wife's love is from her wife Parker, and the roof over our head and food to eat is from Erica. We are grateful, sharing in that gratitude with you. We share a concern this morning on behalf of Paula Marchese, who has been certainly receiving an outpouring of support following a fall and a broken ankle, a broken tibia this past week. She is currently undergoing cardiac evaluation at Highland, and we are just holding her as a surprising turn of events has taken place. And she just really welcomes thoughts and prayers for health and healing right now. We'll continue to keep folks updated as we know more about how Paula would like to receive support. And we are celebrating this morning joy on behalf of Carol and John, who married 14 years ago this coming week. Happy anniversary to you both. Man, the love is palpable this morning. So let us hold this morning that we are a church that is worshiping in a time of war. We acknowledge the wars and the conflicts that are happening in Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, the Congo, Sudan, and so many more places. We grieve the losses of life, both on behalf of military members who are of service to our country, those who serve in a time of war, and of course, the people, the civilians, the hostages, the families, the men, the women, the children who are dying and living in extremely difficult situations, our world over due to war. We earnestly pray for these wars and for the suffering to cease. This morning we light a white candle to acknowledge the grief that is felt, to acknowledge the many deaths that have happened this past week and the ongoing griefs that continue to plague the lives of those who are displaced, those who are living with the losses of children, husbands, wives, beloveds, elders. We connect with our own grief, and we connect our grief to the grief felt in these times of war. We also light a yellow candle to acknowledge the joy that can be found as the sustaining life force that carries all through difficult and tragic moments. We wish that those who are directly impacted in this time by the difficulties and the tragedies of war may also find brief and beautiful moments of joy that continue to sustain those living through difficulty. We connect with our own joy felt here, and we connect to the joy that is a sustaining life force for those experiencing the direct impacts of war. We will hold a brief silence this morning to honor the many deaths that have happened this past week due to wars across our world. Let us drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all the joys and the sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. And I want to invite you into a moment of prayer and meditation with me now. So wherever you are, whether you are here in this sanctuary or joining us online, take a moment to breathe. Take a moment to connect with your breath. Allow your shoulders to relax down. Continue to breathe in and out. Feel your feet planted firmly on the ground. Feel your back held by the pew or the chair or the couch. Allow your weight to be carried here. As you continue to connect with your breath, as you continue to connect your body to the earth, to your source, let us be reminded here that we are connected to all of creation. That through the beauty that we witness, through the air we breathe, through our feet, through our seat, we are connected to the earth, to the elements, to all of creation. Let us take a moment to set down the burdens that may be sitting with you, those that weigh heavily on your heart. Let us acknowledge them, whatever it is you are carrying in here with you this morning, that joy or that sorrow that remains in the silent sanctuaries of your hearts. Let us take a moment to lay it down on the altar of this community. If you would, bring your mind and heart to the last 24 hours and allow that time period to just run through your mind as if it were a movie. Where have you been? What have you experienced? Who were you with? Over the course of this last day, where and when did you experience a moment of the beauty of creation? Allow a moment to distill, perhaps in a person's face, in the sun, in a moment of connection, in a time to be in the natural world, in a time to just experience life's beauty. Where and when did you experience a moment of the beauty of creation? Hold that moment in your mind and heart's eye. And let us give silent thanks, gratitude. Thank you for the ways that you connected me to beauty. Thank you for this moment. And let us also return again to these last 24 hours. Let them play through your mind like a movie, like a narrative. Diving back into that stream. Who were you with? What did you do? Where were you? When and where did you experience a moment of fear, of panic, of worry, of discomfort, of disconnect? Perhaps in thinking about the future and feeling as if you aren't doing enough and things not working out the ways you had hoped. In the face of someone with whom you are in conflict, when and where did you experience a moment of fear, of panic, of worry, discomfort, disconnect? Allow that moment to distill. And take a moment to notice as this moment in the last 24 hours is held in your heart and mind. Where do you experience it in your body? Is it in your shoulders, your chest, or stomach? Is there a tension somewhere? I'm going to invite you to find that space and to breathe into that space. To move a hand there if it feels comfortable to you. breathe into that space. To remind that tender part of you that you are here holding them, and that you are still held by the beauty of creation and of the world. Remind this part of yourself that you are but one part of creation. That you are but one person. That you are connected to something larger than yourself. Connected to humanity, to spirit, to God, to the earth, to love. Let your heart and mind find rest in the ebbs and flows of beauty and difficulty. Let your heart and mind find rest in the reality that this too shall pass, that all of life is full of such moments. Let your heart and mind find rest in the larger love that holds us all, that holds all of creation. Let your heart and mind find rest in your connection to creation and in your very small part of the larger picture, but one moment in these 24 hours. As we sit with our hearts and our minds, with our experiences, let us engage in this connection to creation in silence together. Let us hold silence now. Amen. Blessed be, may it be so. As we continue to emerge from the quiet meditations of our hearts, let us join voices in song for hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love.
Oh my soul, what
I am singing thanks this morning to be back here with you all. I've missed you these last couple of Sundays. For those of you who are here for the first time, our congregations here in Rochester and the greater Rochester area, Unitarian Universalist congregations, have been engaging in a pulpit swap. So for the last 2 Sundays, this church has been hearing from ministers from First Unitarian and the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, and I have been preaching in both of those places. And while it is a delight to get to explore our themes, our monthly themes with our other congregations, it is honestly a joy to be back home. I'm so glad to be with you all here this morning. Our theme this month and for the next month is unabashed joy. And there was a controversy amongst colleagues about whether or not it was unabashed joy or unabashed joy. But since you're here with me this morning, I like unabashed joy. Let's use like sort of the old language or maybe high church ways of thinking about it. I like to pronounce that ED a little bit more. Oh. I want to tell you about something I did while I was away a few weeks ago. I went on a walk in Watkins Glen. Have folks here been there? Show of hands. Anybody been to Watkins Glen? All right. Some of us, a good amount of us. Wondering about our folks online too, but not all of us. So I'm just going to describe for you a little bit about what it is. Watkins Glen is this beautiful gorge trail that has this water that flows through it, creating these pools and waterfalls and so these shallow areas where the water just trickles over rock. And I was walking along the rim trail there. It's still a little early in the season. The gorge trail hasn't quite yet been cleared out. But I was walking along the rim trail and it was a beautiful day. It was towards the beginning of the month. The sun was out, the air was warm, and there were a lot of people out there at first. But I kept walking along this South Rim Trail, which is sort of above the gorge, overlooking the treetops, overlooking the water. And as I kept walking, the trails kind of cleared out. And it was just me. And I was among the pine trees and the bird song and the sunshine off the green leaves after such a gray winter. And in that moment, I was filled with it. This joy. I felt full to the brim. And it was as if I wanted to hold the whole world in my arms or sink my toes into all the grains of sand. It just filled me right up. I wonder for you, when the last time was in your life, in your days, when you were just filled with a joy that it felt like you could not contain. Maybe it happened in the natural world, like for me, or maybe it happened being with another person whom you love and care about. Maybe it happened in a moment when you were engaged in something you were passionate about, or, a moment when life just felt like it was fully lifing. I wonder when the last moment that you experienced this joy was. Take a moment and just think about it. Take a moment and just allow yourself to go back to that time. And since I have learned in my life that joy is magnified when it is shared, I'm going to invite you to take a moment now to turn to a neighbor and to share just a couple of sentences about what this experience was like for you. If you're joining us online, you can put a couple of sentences in the chat to be able to hear your experiences of joy there. And if you're here in person, I'll invite you to turn to a neighbor. Bonus points if you turn to someone you didn't come with today. So take a moment now and turn to your neighbor and share just a sentence or two about your experiences of joy. Take another 30 seconds to wrap up. Make sure everyone's been heard. And let's come back. Let's come back for just a moment. Come on, I know it's really hard. I'm so sorry. This is the worst part of my job. I have to pull y'all back. But I want to hear from y'all. I'm looking at the chat for our online community. And what I'm interested in is, was there a connecting thread of experience between you and your partner or partners about what brought you joy this past week? Was there something that you all had in common or something that you resonated with about what was bringing you joy? We don't have to share each other's stories necessarily, but what was some of the connecting thread that you experienced there? For our folks online, I'm seeing just a lot of stuff about the natural world. Gardening, first warm day, being out in the lilacs, a plant that someone thought was dead. It's just, so we're seeing some connections with the natural world and with plant life. What were some other connecting threads that you all experienced? Grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Hearing that from others too. Being here. Oh. And now. Being here and now. Exercise in the sun. Exercise in gratitude. Dancing. Typical from Eileen Hernandez. Yeah. What is it, Pam? Oh, I love that. Oh. Gardening. Connecting thread. Welcoming new visitors. What a joy. Other connecting threads folks had? Accomplishments. Yes. Mothers. Oh. Church friends. Speaking with others. Graduation. Beautiful. As people of spirit, and as Unitarian Universalist, I believe that we are meant to embrace joy, to allow the bigness of it and the fullness of it to fill us wherever and whenever it can be found. I believe that the bigness of joy and this full feeling that we get can help us tap into the expansiveness of our existence, and it can help us to see ways we do not need to limit ourselves. It can help us connect our small view of the world to a larger creative force for love. Mary Oliver, which is, I sometimes think, the closest thing we have to Unitarian Universalist scripture. Mary Oliver reminds us that joy is not made to be a crumb. I'll say it again. Joy is not made to be a crumb. And she reminds us of this at the end of her poem, Don't Hesitate, which is short and delightful, worth reading now. And I might have shared this with you all before, but it's worth revisiting again. So she writes, if you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Oliver reminds us and helps us to remember that there is plenty to despair over, and rightfully so. We have been living in times where we are constantly reminded of war, of violence, of the many systems that dishonor the worth and dignity and very sacredness of human life. We are living through an election year together. We are experiencing and seeing so much suffering. And I don't know about you, but there are times when I feel scared, enraged, hopeless, powerless, and it can be really hard to feel joy in these moments. I think it's a really unrealistic ask to ask us to find joy in these moments. But in those moments when we do experience it, it can sometimes feel like this major disconnect. Can I be feeling this joy? Well, all of these awful things are going on. We wonder whether or not we should experience it at all. And in these times, it can feel strange to feel the fullness of joy. I have read a few Palestinian poets and writers living in diaspora here who write of the grief they feel during everyday living, how hard it is to be present to the joys of parenting, the joys of friendship and shared experiences when so much suffering is being incurred by family members and community members. I hear this from people here, Jews living here in this country, Israelis living in diaspora, this disconnect between the joy of what my everyday life is and the worry that I have for those back in Israel and in my homeland. There is this disconnect. A country far away from one's physical location, but not from one's heart. Can I still experience joy when my loved ones are experiencing so much suffering? A land that those of us living in diaspora will always be tied to, a people that those of us living in diaspora will always be tied to. And yet, joy is persistent. Joy is here. sometimes knocking on our door, and the invitation is not to hesitate. The invitation is to embrace it as it comes, because we have so much to despair over. In fact, one could argue that we cannot have one without the other, a fact that we acknowledge each week as we participate in this ritual of joys and sorrows. We cannot know joy without grief. We cannot know joy without moments of despair. We cannot know joy when we are numbing ourselves to despair. We cannot know the joy of the world when we numb ourselves to the despair of the world through pretending we do not see it or it does not affect us. We must feel both in order to fully experience both. If we are using happiness or external measures of joy to numb ourselves, that is not really the joy that truly fills us up. It is a temporary joy of attempting to seek escape. We are called to embrace authentic joy when it comes, and to also hold the sorrows and despair that are part of living fully in the world. This world often demands and collaborates with us to bring about big, big joy, unabashed joy. Joy that we do not need to hide for fear of what others might think of us, for fear of being judged or seen as being too much. Joy can be a sustaining force for our lives. Unitarian Universalists believe in a love that runs through all things, and that love's expression, the way that love can sometimes be felt by us, is through our experiences of joy. Our Universalist ancestors might argue that joy is part of the proof of God's love in the world. That through joy, God speaks to us in times when we are troubled, as well as in times when we are in celebration. And if we truly want to know this love, embrace it, express it, then we deserve to feel our own sense of joy, to not hesitate, to not deny. Can you think of a time when joy came to you and you felt the need to hesitate? I'm not going to ask you to share this with your neighbor, but can you think of a time when your heart became full with it, but it didn't feel like the right time to express it, or perhaps you had some other reason? I don't know. Can you think of a time when joy unexpectedly filled you and perhaps it scared you? Or maybe you heard a voice deep within you attempting to tamp it down. A voice that sought to dampen your joy just a bit. As people of spirit, I believe we are called to humility for sure, a humility that recognizes that we are one small part of all of creation, a humility that reminds us that our authenticity is all that we have, that helps to keep us right-sized. I do not believe that humility calls us to make our joy small, or to make our experiences of joy out to be insignificant. I do not believe that that humility calls us to hide our joy, calls us to hide it away where no one can see it. I know from experience the voice inside that would judge authentic expressions of joy, that would encourage us to hide how we feel, to not risk being judged. Maybe I'll look weird. Maybe I'll say something kind of off kilter. What I will say is I think that voice keeps us disconnected from the larger love that holds us all, keeps us out of relationship with the beauty of the world that surrounds us, keeps us small in ways that seek to harm, rather than to acknowledge our rightful place in the world. To allow ourselves to fully feel and express the big nature of our own joy is to allow love and authenticity to lead our lives. No one benefits from us making our joy small. And if we have people in our lives who are consistently encouraging us to be less, to make our joy small, let this morning be an invitation to examine the healthiness of those relationships. Who benefits from us making our joy small? Who would ask us to keep our joy a crumb? As we continue what it means to examine and to live a life of this theology, where love is at the center of all that we do, I am wishing you big, big joy in the days ahead. I am wishing you more of that feeling that we all tapped into together today. I am wishing that we all live free from the tyranny of the inner voice that would encourage us to make our joy small, or that would tell us that we need so much joy to drown out the realities of despair. May we feel the joy of a child, acknowledging that our arms may not be big enough to hold the whole world, but they certainly are large enough to embrace those around us. Consistent sources of joy, mothers, grandchildren, loved ones. And may we not hesitate when the fullness of joy reaches out to inhabit our hearts. Let it fill us and remind us of just how precious this world is. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. As we are people of spirit and encouraged to open our hearts and our minds to big, big joy, let us rise in body or in spirit to sing our closing hymn, hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. As inward love continues to guide us, let us read together our chalice extinguishing words, printed on our screen and in our orders of service. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Dear ones, I'll invite you to place a hand over your heart and to just take a moment to look upon one another's faces, to look upon those with whom you can share experiences of big, big joy, to look upon the faces of those with whom you are traveling here this morning, new faces, faces that have been here for a long time. Come, Spirit, come. Continue to fill our hearts with big, big joy. May you know that joy as the ongoing signs and as the ongoing delights in life and living, confirming that you yourself are loved. May you know that you are loved, and may you go and be that love to whomever you meet in the days, moments, hours, weeks ahead. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.